We're in a kind of a cultural no man's land at the moment. We're not Parfum Warehouse, which is the organisation we used to be affiliated to. And do you know what? We haven't quite worked out what we want to be yet, but we want to be grown up, and we've got to be grown up because actually the city is measuring us now on our performance as an independent organisation. It's not particularly politically correct to say this, but our guys aren't the easiest to work with. Yeah, so I cannot necessarily apply beautiful HR models and talk to them in that kind of language because, do you know what, they'll just switch off. So forgive me for being sort of quite frank about that, but that's where we are. Okay, so our objectives, therefore, were to provide some tools for these managers so that they could become confident in managing people that were around behaviours, not skills. So they come to us and they want an answer, and they want us to give them the answer, and then they can go away and apply that answer. But actually, we wanted to try and mould their behaviour so that they could create their own answers. We needed to capture the culture and the essence of the business, which sounds great, except that we don't quite know what we are yet, so there isn't really a culture for us to capture. So actually, the opportunities were part of shaping that culture ourselves. We needed to be pragmatic, not conceptual. So anything that was around pink and fluffy was not going to be accepted by these guys. It had to be something that they could apply and they could connect with quickly. We needed to speed up the talent pipeline because the managers had to grow with business. And we had to create confident managers as talented at managing people as they are at creating our next generation network, which is what they've done so successfully. So as you can imagine, when we were going to look at a learning development arena, and we had a shopping list of requirements from our engineers because they had a problem and they wanted a list of solutions. So we were concerned, though, that we were about consistency of approach, about the idea of partial take-up, so managers opting out when it got a bit tricky, and that we couldn't capture the culture piece. We were also concerned that in terms of an L&D department, you're looking at her. So I just didn't have the resource, I didn't have the time. I actually run an operation HR and I run resourcing as well in my focus free time. So I just didn't have in-house resource. So enter 3GHR because I needed to work with a third-party supplier in order to get the stuff I needed to do, design and deliver. And their approach, which is called Circle, and that offered a range of development that would build momentum amongst our engineers, ensured engagement, and integrated the learning into the workplace, in other words, kind of making it real for them and applicable for them. So I'm going to pass you over to Scott now, because he's going to explain a little bit further about the approach that they brought in.
Thank you, Mark. So what is the Circle? So the Circle is a series of 6 one-day training modules. So it's 6 days training, but it's 6 months learning. So each module is run once a month, and individuals attend all 6 modules over that 6-month period. Exactly building on what Laura said. So the idea is that you engage people at the beginning of the process, not on, you're going to learn about this, or you're going to learn about that, but actually we're going to take you through a 6-month process during which, once a month we're going to go away for a day and we're going to talk about a specific issue. So the particular ones that Laura and TalkTalk were looking for were Managing Me, which is about managing my own time, managing pressure. She talked about the fast-moving world. You can imagine TalkTalk as a very successful technology organisation. So helping managers to manage themselves in the first place. Building powerful relationships, high-performance leadership, managing in turbulent times, which is managing change and dynamism. Again, we've seen some of that this morning, but the tools and equipment, very practical ways of dealing with managing change. Coaching for results. If you're in the other room, you can hear more about coaching. And influencing negotiating. So these 6 modules, you can see they kind of, if you just put them up on a curriculum and ask people to attend, you get, I don't know, what the sort of random or variable take-up. So what we did is we combined these into and it's called a circle because we run it once and then we run it again. And in fact, we ended up at one stage and we had 3 circles running in parallel. So the other thing that's happening with that is you're building momentum in the organisation. You've got a lot of managers going through this process at the same time, going through the learning process at the same time. So there's some socialisation of the implementation as well as the socialisation of the learning in the classroom. It's supported by a programme coach. So before you even attend the circle, you'll speak to a coach consultant, and they'll talk to you about what you're going to experience and also ask you what you're looking for. So where are you in terms of your objectives? What are you trying to get out of this programme? So they can then help tie you up. So that make sure that module you ask questions about that. Make sure you bring your case studies to this situation. Touch base again in the middle. So how's it going? Are you getting what you wanted out of the programme? And touch base at the end in terms of, okay, did we complete it? We also do what we call Coaching Plus, Circle Plus, which at the end, each delegate has an individual coaching session, sort of in a surgery type environment where you say, so what's come up, what are the challenges with implementation, what are the challenges with execution? So those of you who are into Kirkpatrick's, you can see how we're looking at learning at all sorts of levels. We're looking to make sure the behaviour change is happening in between modules, making sure people get execution, and to pull the whole thing together. Again, there was a nice reference from this morning's session. There's also an ILM parchment at the end of the process. So those of you who are familiar with that, so each delegate has to write up in essay format, so a bit of a blast from the past, what they have done with the learning that they've had. So it's not about what you've learned, it's about how you've applied that learning. So again, nice thing for the individual is they get a certificate, that's transferable, it's personal, but from the organisational point of view, what they can see is that the full circle's been gone through and that learning has been applied to real-life workplace. So, so again, what you get is momentum building for the individual. They between the modules, they're implementing the learning. One of the problems you've got is because they're seeing this, because we position this and designing this as a 6-month process. Of course, each time the trainer turns up, each module is delivered by a different trainer, a subject matter expert. So I walk into the room, you all know each other, yeah? But I don't know you and you don't know me. So getting over that process, what we've done is we've instrumented each trainer hands over to the next trainer, so they talk through what happened in the classroom, they talk through what issues were emerging, what was happening, who was struggling, who was having real impact already. So when I walk in, actually I already know you, so that gets us over that process. So the baton is handed over, and obviously the other thing we're doing is keeping our long-term coach engaged in that process. So in terms of initial impacts, obviously you'd expect me to say, I wouldn't say anything else. We get lots of very nice comments on the happy sheet, so each individual module is a success. Very high feedback and very good response on that. But more importantly, what we're getting is anecdotal feedback from directors in terms of real behaviour change in the organisation. Laura can talk a bit more about that.
So, yeah, to what extent has this impacted on our organisation? And I don't think it would be unrealistic enough to think that people are going to change overnight, and that's part of the reason why we introduced a six-month approach. I think we knew we were going to open Pandora's box a little bit, because there'd been very little development for any of our engineers outside, SOS or Nokia or whatever. However, we just couldn't quite estimated just how much we were going to be in demand for this particular type of programme. Our divisional engagement score, we heard a lot about employee engagement this morning. It went from a 40% response rate with a 50% engagement score, so fantastic, to over a 90% response rate with an 82% engagement score, and that's in the period of 12 months. So we got some feedback from the initial one about development, we called them 3GHR, we worked with it, and then that's the kind of shift and step change in engagement that we got. More importantly though, I think, it's acted as a catalyst. And now we're talking with our leaders about what good leadership looks like. We're bringing in 360-degree feedback. We're talking about, I mean, that doesn't sound like it's great shakes, and you know what? It isn't. But actually for our organisation, it is. We've never had the engineering community talk about what kind of leaders they are, what impact they have on the people around them, how their customer focused they are. It's a complete change in the way that they work. And we're absolutely delighted, although it is a bit scary because clearly it's leading to a whole load of other conversations that need to be had. So what was different? I think what was different about this approach, the approach we've had together, is the combination. One element in itself, you just kind of go, well, great, that's great, but what about it? Actually, the design, the bespoke elements of the course, the ILM accreditation, the alumni, the social networking that's created, and good practice and theoretical models and the coaching all together is where the power is with this. So it really is a situation where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That's where the power lay in the combination of what we were doing, not in any one single element in itself. Moreover, excuse me, the partnership with 3GHR and the extent to which we worked together underpinned the whole sort of programme. And it was absolutely key. The delivery style was tailored and appropriate to our management population, and that actually was a key to sort of starting something that was going to be having long-lasting, quite startling results. Okay, that's me. Finished and Scott finished.
Yep.
On
you don't want the red card.
We don't want the red card. We'd be delighted to take some questions.